Welcome to the Burn Boot Camp podcast, where you'll find the motivation, inspiration, and empowerment that leads to real transformation, the lifelong kind. Keep listening and keep moving, Burn Nation.
Is this everyone? Do we have everyone from a FP ops perspective? And the trainers are not here, right? Trainers will be tomorrow.
Trainers are tomorrow, yeah.
Excellent. I'm gonna close this, if you guys don't mind. How's everyone?
It's freezing in here. I'm like,
are you
freezing
you want me to warm you up?
I'll
warm you up.
Woo,
Yeah.
I just did plenty of activity upstairs at noon.
I don't know about y'all. You know how like once out of every 10 workouts is like one that you're like, oh, this is terrible. I don't want to even be here. That was me today. I was like, hey, listen. So we're gonna do an open Q&A. When I say open, we mean open. You can ask us whatever you want to know, whether it be like a tactical thing that you want to get into your communities and do right now. We've built 15 gyms. We hold 9 gyms. We're in it. We're in it with you guys. We're like happy as pigs rolling in the mud. You know what I mean? Like we're just down in the mud and loving it. And I'm gonna pass this around. All right, you can't break this really, so don't worry. And it's not like just hold it just like this, like a microphone, because Isaiah is here and we're gonna capture some content for the rest of the system when you guys ask questions. So I know that you have a mouthful of food, so if you can like put it into like a cheek, like a chipmunk for a minute and speak out one side of your mouth or swallow it and ask a question, that would be awesome. And if you have no questions, that means you're not curious, which I know that's not going to be the case. We have some things that we could also talk about as well. But the vision of the organization to the history of the organization and anything and everything in between is fair game. And is there anyone that wants to kick us off today? All right, Chelsea, ready? Here you go, catch.
Oh.
Nice. I told you. You can't break it. You're good.
You're good.
Okay, this question is for Morgan.
All right.
Congrats on your new role, firstly.
Thank you.
I was just wondering, what's the first 2 to 3 things that you're working on in your new role as CEO?
Yeah, so great question.
Can you repeat it out loud?
I am
Okay,
doing
just reminding you.
The first 2 to 3 things that I am working on as CEO is really just internally getting our organization really organized, right? So previously, Devan had 4 VPs and I had the remaining VPs. And so a lot of just me coming in and using that operational brain of mine to kind of go a little bit deeper into some of the processes that we're working on here. And that always is going to see impacts outwardly to you guys and how we're able to serve you and how we're able to, improve our processes and efficiencies. So that's really the biggest focus right now is kind of getting deep in the marketing and the IT in our Burn Media Co. In our franchise development and just getting those processes really dialed in. And secondly, it's the education circuit. So that's another big priority for me right now. It has always been under my leadership, but Blue Carpet Experience, certified gyms, getting access and really understanding what the vision of our education system is going to be is a priority for me to kind of dial in by the end of the year. And that doesn't just include Blue Carpet Certified. It's like, how do we support you, even from an FBC level down to regional trainings, Burn universities, summits, all the things, right? How are we going to give you guys more and your employees more so we can consistently be running this brand? So I would say those 2 things are my biggest priority. Good? Cool. All right, who's next? So
you're not going to toss it
I
at him,
will not
Chelsea?
throw it the way Devan did.
I thought I was starting a trend.
Okay.
All right, Jason.
See, I'm nicer. I don't want to have to buy a new one.
So mine's actually about marketing, advertising, and how Burn, obviously we have the best product by far.
Yep.
But as a consumer myself, when I'm out, I do find that I hear about our competition more often than I hear about us. And I understand there are 2 ways to look at things. You could just throw money at it, obviously, or you can just do it by letting the product sell itself. You guys have a plan in the future for us to have national recognition, like national media, advertising, things of that nature? Because I haven't seen it. It might exist.
Yeah.
But I'd love to know if there is a plan for that. I mean, would you say 503 leases, I think?
506.
506?
Yep.
And then, so we're obviously growing.
Yep.
So what do you think about?
I'd love to answer that question. So the question is, when is the tipping point of national brand awareness to where Susan down the street who's never been to Burn knows about it? Is that what you're asking? Yeah. And you hear about OTF and you hear about F45 and you hear some CrossFit and like some other globally recognized brands. I would say, you guys, right now we're at the tipping point of that. Right? At 344 open, we're just getting to the point where the contributions monetarily from the system are compounding enough so that we can go out and have bigger media spends to spend against some of these guys. And I think at the end of the day, though, what's more important than that is the inside out marketing and continuing to do it from both levels, right? So like a lot of times you might just rely on the national brand awareness, and it's like great that people know about you, but do they really feel you? Like I would rather have, if you're talking about 2 million people knowing you, who you are, I'd rather have 1,000 really feel me than 2 million know me. That's not to say that I don't care about that national brand recognition, because it is important. It is going to help lead generation, which is why we hired Havas PR, which is an agency, and DAC, which is an SEO agency. These two are going to come in. They're big retainer organizations that we haven't been able to afford, quite frankly, to this point, until those contributions from the system compounded to be great enough. And so we've been inside out, churning and just trying to kind of blossom it from the inside out as the next wave of this national sweep will come across to help us get headlines, to help us package up our story. Morgan and I right now are working on a book. We've assembled like what I would call like a super team from the publishing world. And you guys all know that I wrote Stop Starting Over a couple years ago. Well, that was a prerequisite just to test the market, just to see if we should invest into putting together a bestseller team, because there's a strategy to it. And it's a book that is going to be branded Burn Bootcamp, about our philosophy, and we're going to get national recognition and press and shelf space for that. Cross my fingers, hope to die. If there's nothing else that I do in the next year, it's to get that book on the shelves at Hudson and Barnes & Noble and get our brand out there in channels where it hasn't traditionally been out there. And here's the trick. Doing so without giving up equity. Without giving up equity to some private equity firm that wants to just funnel cash into our business, let's say, and go hire Mark Wahlberg for $30 million, to go talk about us for a couple of years, right? Am I interested in national celebrity figures? Sure, but not ones that are against our core values. And the one that I'm interested in is authenticity, like maintaining that. I don't want someone that isn't a part of this to represent the brand. And so the answer is yes to the national influencer, but at the right time without forcing it, right? And I feel like that we're one headline away from what you're talking about, and then we're probably 100 locations more open to being there regardless, like from the inside out. So it's coming either way. It's either going to come out of a headline, or it's going to come because there's one in every community and nobody can take their eyes off of it.
And just to add a little bit of context to DAC with the SEO is, so we're doing two things right now. We're working on redoing our entire website, but also working on just SEO, meaning how can we get on that first page for more searches in Google of exercise around me, or things that your potential members are out looking for. How can we show up more and more and more and more just to get those extra touches? Additionally, we've held back the lives, through the pandemic, and we have Tuesday public. There's eventually going to be a time where we need to open that up to more people, because YouTube is a great place for us to showcase what our product is and then help them drive them into the door near you guys, right? So we're not going to try to compete with InGym. That needs to be a feeder program. So we need to be able to open up the YouTube live streams and start advertising a little bit more. So that's another strategy to get some more of that, touchiness and brand awareness.
Regardless, we're a year and a half away at most, I would say. We're very close. We're very close. I've been hungry for it for about 12 to 18 months now, since that article came out in the Franchise Times that said lone grower. Did you guys see that one? It was lone grower in the Franchise Times. They ranked all of the revenue in fitness franchising, and 1 through 7 or 8, I think they displayed in the article, and we grew 12.5%, and everyone else was like 22, to 40 something percent. So as soon as I saw that, I'm like, okay, we're close, right? Because the people that feel us, like I'm talking about, they're here already, right? They're here already. They're going to be those that speak from the mountaintop. So I'm excited for it. It's coming. It's coming.
Question. All right, who's next? We'll pass the mic. Come on, don't be afraid.
You can throw it, just catch it.
Just catch it.
Yeah, that wasn't fair. That
Just-
wasn't fair to Chelsea.
So going back to Morgan's promotion, was this the timing you two always envisioned for that change happening, or what was the trigger to make that change now?
Do you want to answer?
Yes. So the question is, how long have you been contemplating the CEO visionary move? Well, about 3.5 years. I knew that at some point that I was going to build the infrastructure to the point where I wasn't needed anymore, and the true natural leader for a company who prides itself in empowering women and their families is someone who is an empowered woman empowering their family. And so it was very natural for Morgan to be in the CEO seat, but she also earned it. Like, it was an idea, like, hey, this would be good if you could build yourself up, your skills, your knowledge, your ability over the next 3 years to be able to step in and walk into this. I want you to know now that I see this for you. And so Morgan had her own journey over 3 years of reverse engineering from what that seat required to where she was, what needed to happen for her personally, like her personal character. And I just was like an outsider looking in, watching her, slam on books and slam on, the education needed and learning and pouring into herself on top of all the other things. So I'm like, she's hungry like the whole time for it. And when we got on the other side of the pandemic, the last thing was really from my tenure as the CEO was to institute the Burn operating system and start and get people to the point where they're stewards of it in the organization. And people are like, this is awesome, it's working, because then I knew that the system would propagate and it would spread. And to me, there was nothing else for me left to do after that, right? And so that was the situation that we were in, was like, I can either continue to do this, or somebody that is been in the COO seat who has been walking, talking, acting, and behaving as if she already is the CEO for the last year. Why would we transition her into that seat, which fits her natural giftings a little more, and let me go up and out like I was in 2012, knocking on doors, like, hey, you wouldn't want to join Burn Bootcamp, would you? And now it's just going to be on a more global scale. So yes, for 3.5 years, it was an idea, and she seized it, and
I wasn't gonna let anyone.
She wasn't gonna let anyone else take it. But I knew, and she knew that too. I wasn't gonna favor Morgan. It was gonna be me as a CEO making decisions, not husband and wife, not Morgan and Devan, but CEO and COO. And when I get to the point when I want to go be 2012 me again and go build and create something out of nothing, well, then I need someone to come behind me that's even stronger than I am, right? To hold the ship together. And so now Morgan's up here at the top, and she has our VPs, right? And they're pretty flat. There's 9 of them. And she sees all of them now and everything that they do. It's no longer like mom and dad at the dinner table, and dad says one thing and then mom says something a little different. And it's the same ideology, but you're communicating differently, so the children take it differently, and then they communicate differently, and they're confused. But mom said I could watch it over here, but yeah, that was if you ate your dinner, you know what I mean? And so our teams were getting confused down the line. This just clears all of that up right away, because she's way more detail-oriented and a way better performance manager than I am. And for me, being in the inspiration seat is great. So that would be my answer. To anything to add to that?
I think the timing made sense, not just because of what he said, but also just the implementation of BOS in for our system as well. The same way we're encouraging you guys to get right people in right seats based on what their giftings are and that accountability. And so naturally, if you actually, look at what I'm good at, what Devan's good at, that makes the most sense to have an integrator, visionary kind of duo. I always recommend, I told you this the other night, Rocket Fuel. It's a great book. It literally describes Devan and I to a T. If you want to know a little bit more about the founders, he's a visionary, I'm an integrator. And so there's also a free test you can take. It's an EOS book, so there's an EOS toolbox. And you can kind of learn what you are and maybe the duo that you guys are in with, whether it's a husband, a wife, a sister, whatever. It's good to just learn about yourself more and more. And I think over 10 years, we've played a lot of different roles, and we've learned a lot about each other, about ourselves. And so it's been natural to step into what that next version looks like.
My biggest fear is always the following. I've wanted to bring along my friends and family for the ride since I founded Burn. Well, I created it and then we founded the LLC together and started building it from like day one. She was training like day one and I just happened to like open the LLC and come up with the idea and say, hey, you wouldn't want to help me while you're also working at Kellogg's, would you? But we wanted to bring our family and friends along. And I don't subscribe to the philosophy that like you should separate business and friendship. It's like, if you're a bad leader, you should probably separate business and friendship. But if you're a good leader and you understand communication and you can pull those people along with you, then why not? My biggest fear though was always, you know, Devan, you're bringing your friends and your family on board and like, you know, there's a level of maybe entitlement that could naturally come when, you know, you get it from corporate America when the dad who wants to retire hires their son or daughter into their seat and they don't like deserve it, right? So obviously that was a fear for me. But if you look at the track record, I hired my best friend growing up to do our Denver location when it first opened. Matt Morris is my best friend since we were 12 years old. Morgan and I met when we were 12 years old. My best friend from college, Bryce, is our VP of finance. When I met Day,
No, he's not
VP of what'd I say?
HQ Gyms.
HQ Gyms.
Yeah.
Diana is our director of compliance, and I've known her, been friends with her for like 7 years. And so my sister was the trainer upstairs at Lake Norman, right? So if you're going to bring friends and family along in the business, you just have to make it harder for them. You can't make it easier, or they can't even be on the same playing field. You have to make it harder for them. So one time in Burn University, maybe like 20, my sister was here and she was getting ready to take over Lake Norman as one of the lead trainers here when we were first opening. And she came into Burn University and she kept saying class over and over and over and over. It's my sister. I can't just like do the normal thing and be like, hey, it's camp, not class, and like correct them, right? I made her get up on a whiteboard like Bart Simpson from The Simpsons and write camp, not class 100 times on a whiteboard, and I filmed it and I put it on the trainer forum and I made everyone watch it and it wasn't to embarrass my sister. It was to tell people that, hey, when I have friends and family that are in this organization, they're going to have a way higher barrier of entry to get things than you know anybody else would, and they're not on the same playing field. It's actually harder. So I want you to know that, and I just want you to know that that's a testament to how good Morgan is. Like, this is not a husband and wife thing. I'm not up here like pumping her up or like some smoke and mirror like pat on the back. Like, she's a rock star, right? And I'm so excited for this, and I personally feel liberated, and I just want you all to know from my perspective that yes, we're family, but her standards to step into the CEO seat were way stronger, way higher than anyone else's standards that would have even come from the outside. So I say that to say you're in very good hands, and there's no detail that will be unturned when it comes to operationalizing and creating a business that equals world-class economics for you guys. Who's next? Hand up.
All right. So.
And Lucas, right?
Lucas.
Yes.
Yeah, good memory. So I would just like more information about blue carpet certified gyms. How are you identifying them? And then how do you foresee them helping you kind of grow and expand?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the criteria for the blue carpet certified gyms has not been quite completed, but definitely a 5-star trainer. So you need to have someone that's a 5-star trainer. Did you guys learn what a 5-star trainer was this week yet? No? Yes? You know, yeah. Can you explain 5-star trainer real quick?
Yes, they're 4 stars that can create 4 stars that are leaders. So the 5th star is the leadership star. Like I've everyone, there's nobody that's a 2 or a 3 in my gym, and everyone's a 4 or a 5 constantly. The only way you get the 5th one is,
yeah. So that has to happen. We're looking at kind of a membership criteria. You need to have over a certain amount of members, probably 400 and above. And then blue carpet certified, meaning, you know, looking at your checklist, and we're going to come to you, likely you're going to come to us, and we're going to make sure that we are seeing what you're running is the standard and you're getting great scores on the blue carpet. A lot more details to come once we have it finalized. Gilbert was identified because we knew where their membership was at. We've been out there recently. They have a 5-star trainer that's also a franchise partner, so that helps a lot too, to have like franchise partners that are in the business. How do I see these hubs kind of helping us out? I see them being, you know, places that we can send or other franchise partners can send their employees to, or a franchise partner is going to spend time at a blue carpet certified hub before they open. I see it just being another layer of education for our system. So instead of coming to Burn You always, maybe you can have a trainer go to a hub for 3 days to get those reps in. Because I think that's the one biggest thing that's missing in our system right now is you're learning like the classroom stuff, but we need to get you guys gritty like in those practice reps. We need to get you guys like in a real environment, high energy, it's busy, you've got 4 trials that walk in, all the things that you're gonna experience once you open your doors. That's something we haven't been able to replicate very well here during the Burn You week. So we wanna utilize these hubs to say, okay, now you've gone to Burn You, but now you're gonna go spend a week at a hub before you open your doors. So that's kind of the opening side of where I see it. But also it can be, maybe it's a failing gym, or maybe it's a gym that just isn't getting it. Instead of coming here or us deploying to them, let's first send them a couple hours away or 30 minutes away to see what the standard looks like. Does that help answer your question?
And by the way, just one point, there's an economic model that will be the stability to that, right? Where you guys will transact amongst each other with the blue carpet certifications, and you will be compensating the blue carpet certification. So we're not like going to do it off the back of goodwill. That to me would only work for like a short period of time. It has to have an economic model to be stable, which is why the criteria is a little slower to come out than we wanted to, because we really want to make sure that it's enticing for you, right, to be able to do this and do it for an extended period of time, so that we don't set up all the infrastructure and then it's a bad day happens and half our blue carpet people pull out because there's nothing tangible keeping them there, right?
Yeah, but I love that you're asking already.
It's great.
That's awesome.
Who has that in their game plan in terms of like what your outlook is for the next year or two?
Awesome. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a great goal. I mean, to have our entire system that's blue carpet certified, that means that we're doing it well, right? If everyone's hitting that criteria, it only can equal success for you, and then success for our system. So, thank you. All right, where to go? All right, Abby.
So I was just going to ask Morgan, and this was going to be perfect after Tina's question was, so you had this new role, you were looked up to by so many women in this business, but if somebody came to you today and said they were hungry for it, and you poured into yourself, like what 3 pieces of advice would you give somebody?
To prepare yourself for the next level,
Yes.
basically? So that's a great question. What are some pieces of advice that I would give someone that's hungry to take it to the next level?
3 specifically,
Okay.
I think was the question.
I got to pick the best 3. I think number 1 is be willing to be coached and and do the coaching yourself, or no, not do the coaching yourself. Be willing to be coached and learn something new. Like, don't feel like you know everything. That's something that, like, I think that's humility, right? Like, have humility. Don't think you know everything. And if you think you know everything, go learn more stuff, because we don't know everything. So be willing to be coached. I've hired 3 coaches this year. So I'm in a mastermind. I've surrounded myself with other women that are, building empires, basically, right? I have hired an integrator coach, so someone that has worked with a visionary before. So I'm on a coaching call with them.
Translated into, that's her personal coach to deal with me.
Yeah. How do I deal with Devan? And I've hired a speech coach, right? I think I've done a podcast on this, right? Speaking makes me nervous, like on summit stage, but I'm not going to stop doing it. I want to get better and better and better at it. So what am I going to do? I'm going to lean into that, and I'm going to let somebody else help me. So I've hired a speech coach, right? So I know what my weaknesses are, and I'm leaning into them. I'm not afraid to admit that, and I'm going to go learn, and I'm going to go get better at it. So number 1 is just like be willing to be coached, or be hungry for that education. Number 2, I think it's about who you surround yourself with. If you have drama and gossip in your life, you got to get rid of it, because it's pulling you back and it's distracting you. So there's a lot of crap, right, that's happened to me in the last couple of years, right, whether the pandemic and just some other things. And there's a lot of voices. There's a lot of DMs that are good and bad in my inbox. There's a lot of good and bad emails. There were some good and bad things happening around me. I had to learn to create a force field to not listen to the negativity. And that sometimes means just removing people from your life or just creating boundaries in your life. So I think if you're on a path and you want to get there quickly, you cannot have any distractions. So remove the drama and the gossip and the negativity from your life. Number 3, give yourself permission to do exactly what you want to do. Don't let the negative self-talk and like, I'm not worth it, or I'm going to let other people down if I do this, or if I take this next role. Do you guys want to know how many times I thought, gosh, how am I going to be a great mother if I take a CEO job? How am I going to be a great mother if I open a gym? How am I going to be a great mother if I open another gym? You guys agree that that goes through our head, right? We think about these things, or maybe it's not mother, but it's friendship or spouse, because you're adding more to your plate. But if it's in your heart, you've got to go after it, and you've got to give yourself permission to say that this is meant for me, right? I'm going to figure out how I'm going to be great at everything else. And so don't let yourself be held back by the things that are going on in your head. So
that was 3 really good ones, yeah.
Okay.
I was like,
good, Abby? All right.
I was half here starting, so that's very, very good.
Awesome.
Quick question. You have I think I have like 7 or 8 book recommendations.
Yeah.
Down. Podcasts, book, people, personalities that inspire you, because I'm a listener.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of podcast recommendations right now. I just literally don't have the time to listen to podcasts right now.
we're just making it now.
I've been doing more books lately. Like all the EOS books I would recommend. So there's Traction, there's Rocket Fuel, there's How to Be a Great Boss. The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team is a great one.
Nonviolent Communication is another.
Nonviolent Communication is the newest book that I'm starting to read. So this would be another great book for you, Nonviolent Communication. We did a workshop on it as a leadership team, and it's a philosophy of how to communicate really effectively with people and how to have hard conversations. So I literally just got it yesterday, but I know you've read it already. So
E-Myth is my favorite. I was introduced to that not too long ago, Morgan and I both, and I wish I would have found it 10 years ago. It's called E-Myth. It's the one that I talked to the FPs on Monday about primary aim and strategic objective. That would be a good one. 2 others, and I said
Energy Bus is a good one.
What is it?
The Energy Bus.
I didn't read that one. That's a good one.
Yep. The Energy Bus, yep. Easy, quick read.
When y'all start killing the game, making a shit ton of money, what you need to then do is go read Money Master the Game by Tony Robbins so that you can learn how to intelligently diversify your portfolio, because you want to build wealth in concentration, but then you want to then diversify it from there, right? And so what you don't want to do is start spinning off cash flow, which is king, not cash. Cash flow is king. You don't want to start spinning off cash flow and have nothing to do with it besides keep it in your bank account. Right, you need to have a philosophy. You know, you're making $10,000 of discretionary, meaning you're not using it to live. You're making $10,000 of discretionary income a month, and it's just sitting in your bank account. You're literally, that's going to zero. Like, you're losing money by it sitting in your bank account because of interest rates. Interest rates are going to kill it over time. It's not going to grow as fast as the interest rates are going to grow in a sense. So the dollar is burning if it's just sitting in your bank account, and you need to really diversify that. And Money Master the Game is the best one that I've ever read. It's my foundational book to finances. And if you don't know the language of business, then you're going to struggle in business. And that really helps you take financial terminology and make it practical, which was very helpful for me because they try to confuse you. Like, for example, income statement, P&L, same thing. It's the same exact thing, and people are like, do you want my income statements or my P&Ls? I'm not sure which one to send you. It's the same thing, right? And there's like thousands of acronyms that all mean the same thing in that world. So that would be my next level recommendation when you start to see the horizon of manifesting the cash flow that you set out to. Books. I always like the Gary Vaynerchuk podcast for marketers. He's very practical.
You guys are going to be so busy reading.
Yeah.
Man. Woo. Or audiobooks. Audiobooks, yes.
And then 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John C. Maxwell was one I gave you guys the other day that I didn't give your ops managers. But if you, I mean, that's like a handful of books. If you consume those, like, you'll have every business principle and leadership principle that you'll need, and then it's just going to become, are you going to execute, right? The difference between knowledge and execution. Consuming all of that is great, and knowing it's great. Just like knowing the BOS is great, you actually have to put the steps in place to execute it. And I think that goes for everything in life, right?
Yeah, there's theory.
Yeah. Yeah. How many PhDs do we know, or like really, really smart people who can't fight their way out of a financial wet paper bag, right? They might be the smartest person in the world. They might be so book smart. I'm not saying that money is everything, but I'll tell you that it open a lot of avenues and opportunities and doorways in your life that you wouldn't have otherwise. So I value money. Less than time, but I value money. So the question is, so if you believe in the philosophy, hire fast, fire faster, promote fastest, are you going to make mistakes in all three of those? 100%. It's just philosophy. It's just giving you direction, right? It's basically saying, as soon as you have an intuition that you know somebody's not right, listen to your intuition, and they're going to end up better on the other side of not being employed with you anyways, right? So like, why don't we make everyone happy by having this hard conversation and not punt it down the road 6 months to where it just makes everything worse? Promote fastest basically means use the same thing, use the same intuition. But like when I think of somebody that, there's 3 people in my office right now, when I think promote fastest, I'm like, I'm nervous that I'm not promoting them fast enough, right? You should have fired somebody faster when you promoted them fastest, and that's where it gets confusing. A lot of times what happens is someone leaves and you just slide everyone right up with no competition. Don't do that. You don't want to do that. You want to so if like a lead trainer leaves, right? Let it breathe for a couple weeks and figure it out, right? But don't just like give the next person with a microphone on their head that job, because now you're just going to that's like digging yourself a deeper and deeper ditch. So in that regard, don't promote fastest would be like, don't promote out of force. Morgan was saying, she was basically saying box in the middle of the ring. If your team is like hitting you and you're over here and you're against the ropes and you're constantly trying to dodge, you ever see anybody in the ropes besides like maybe Muhammad throwing shots back? No, they're in the ropes getting dodged every time. The only time they're throwing shots is when they're out in the middle of the ring. So if you get in those situations where someone leaves, that's the easiest time where you can get backed up in the corner real fast. And that's when you just got to stand strong and keep swinging. So I hope that gives a little bit of insight to your question. But yes, you also make mistakes of promoting people that you shouldn't because they had a really good interview. But then you see that their work ethic and their ambition, which is very, very hard to measure, they're not doing anything outside of what like their job description says. And to me, I always make sure people on the front end know the standard. This is going to be the hardest job you've ever worked in. I'm going to be the most demanding boss. You're really probably not going to like me.
And if I can manage anyone anymore.
And if I can scare you, and if I can scare you away, good. Because then you're not willing to. Then you don't have expectations of yourself. I cannot have expectations of you, or else I'm giving you power to take away my happiness if you don't fulfill my expectations. You follow me? So as soon as I give those expectations to someone, I'm less of a leader. I have less power. It's like in like Christmas. You ever have somebody that you gave a gift to, or somebody gave you a gift and you didn't give them one back and they were a little mad about it, or you could sense that they were frustrated? They were literally giving you a gift, like a gift. The definition of a gift is like a selfless show of appreciation, something like that. Mm-hmm. And you gave it to them and you were mad because they didn't give you one back. So who were you really giving the gift for? You or them? And I think that's what I think a lot about hiring and firing is try not to hire people with expectations. Try not to hire anyone projecting your own expectations. That doesn't mean don't set the standard and tell them what the standard for everyone is, right? But you having projections on that individual is only going to set them and you up for failure. Let them see the standard, which is why I try to scare people away from the standard, because I relay it very clearly. And if they're way down here, they're not going to accept the offer if they got it. So that's the way that I think about it.
One piece of advice I would give and this is something I think I've taken away the most with like learning all this operating system stuff, is make sure that you are building the seat first, right? And you're not thinking of the person, right? So like, yeah, we want to promote them because we want them to stay with us. So let's just give them this title. I've done that. Bad idea. Always ends up like in some sort of, conflict, or they're not performing to the level that they should at that title because I didn't build the seat first. I just gave them the title. So when you guys are like making those decisions and career pathing with your employees, make sure that you are taking like the people out of it and building your seats first, and then putting the right person in those seats. I've done it the opposite way, and that's what's gotten us, in trouble. And then you have to make difficult decisions. So hopefully that's helpful. But just if you're looking to maybe promote somebody, make sure you guys are really sure that that's what the business needs. That has to come first, right? I know we're people first, but it's got to come first for the business need first, and then you find out, okay, who is best for that, versus always it being the person first, then the business is going to suffer. So
it's called accountability charts in in the BOS. So instead of an org chart, which is traditional way to set up a hierarchy, it's an accountability chart.
And accountability charts do not have names on it. They have functions and
roles and responsibilities.
So that's always helpful too when you're looking at your organization, Tina. Take the people out of it. What do you guys need? And then who can we give that to? And then there's other forms of promotions, right? Like whether it's celebrating people publicly, or it's more money, or it's the things that obviously fill them up. There's all kinds of ways to do that too. Am I on your side or am I on Harlan's side?
So the second part of the question then is, so multi-unit operation that we have going, and we're growing into it and figuring out exactly that, before we give that title to someone, it is, what does that even look like? But I did put out my rough accountability chart for a couple of reasons. I knew I needed help, and I wanted to tell my team that I know I need help. I just don't know what that is and what it looks like yet. And so I put in a chart out there that kind of said, I think I'm going to need something kind of like this and something kind of like this. And so where the debate is that Harlan gets mad when I put stuff out there before we're really ready for it in terms of like the specifics. And
are you the visionary and he is the integrator?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I used to do all the time.
Yeah.
And that's why we created Whiplash, when everyone's like, wait, what's Devan want? Wait, what's Morgan want?
Yeah.
Breaking necks out here.
Yeah.
Your team's like, wait, who's right?
Which one?
Well,
Which one
and
of
I
you?
think if you put a potential promotion out there and you're not ready for it, I mean, it does put pressure on you, right? Because someone's seen that.
So where Harlan and I stand is that, and Harlan hates to agree to disagree. I'm just bored having the conversation, so I'm just walking away from it, knowing that I'm right.
Of course.
And he's doing the same thing. He'll debate until the bitter end, even if he knows he's wrong. Sorry, getting off track. So what happened is for one of the positions is more on the fitness product side, and I put it out there, dangle the carrot, if you will. But genuinely, I believed that the person that I was talking to would be so incredible in that role for all of her giftings and that sort of thing. And Harlan was more like, well, why would you put that in her head as like a future plan? Like, let her, like, our gift is to let her focus on her job right now. And I thought of like, okay, as you're working on getting really, really excellent in this role that you are now, I want you to know that there's something after this.
I actually agree with you. I think that's, sorry, Harlan.
I'm going to sit right in the middle.
Sorry, Harlan, you're going to be watching this.
I think you should ask her question. I think you should ask her what she wants and what her vision is and what the things that she wants first, and get her full picture of all the things, and then you come over the top and do that. I would kind of sit in like a hybrid position on that one.
I'll respect that. And then my other...
She's like, good. I'm still right, but I'll respect that. That's your passion coming out. Here's what does happen though, Tina, and I'm the same way. I'll go to somebody out of just passion, and I'll be like, dude, what you did last week, it was so amazing. Like, I can't, like, what do you need? What do you want from me? Let's do, like, and I'll get this energy flow with them, and because you're you and because I'm me, just the interaction itself, they probably don't even, they're probably like, wah, you're probably like, wah, wah, wah. They probably don't hear what you're saying, right? Because they're excited to have the conversation with you, and just the conversation, the enthusiasm, and the energy for them is going to is going to create a perception, a heightened perception of I should be expecting something. And that's probably what Harlan's saying, is don't gas them up without being specific, right? If you gas them up and it's like really vague, right, then there's no clarity. There's like no next point to meet at. Respect that still, thank you. Okay, all right.
I've got a couple other questions, but I can.
Oh,
No, go ahead.
I just had one pop in my head. Don't take this the wrong way, babe. Because I mean, I did have a lot of questions on leadership, but I think you guys have done a great job at like giving book recommendations and stuff like that, because that's been a focus of mine. But newly like husband and wife couple, and I think we've done a great job at stepping in the roles. We definitely play to our strengths. But what have you guys found best working together side by side for 10 plus years? Whether it is communication, I know that's a big one that we have worked on. I'm very passionate with what I do, so it's hard for me to take always like the criticism, but I know we have like several husband and wife couples in here, or just, some are just like partners and stuff. But what do you guys see is the best way to go about some of those things? What has helped you guys along the journey?
You go historically, I'll go the most updated recent.
No,
I can
don't
start
know
there.
historically.
So-
I don't know.
Historically, it's our hat. It's our hat.
Our
then.
hats, yeah.
It's just the identifying. You can do that now. It feels kind of awkward to do it now that's out of the back.
I mean, okay, so I think you touched on it. It's communication. When there's tension between Devan and I, it always boils down to lack of communication, or poor communication from me or from him. I love our same page meetings.
Yes,
so
that's what I
I'm
was
going to
gonna say.
recommend that you and Jason have a same page meeting every month or biweekly, and everybody actually, again, it doesn't have to be spouses. It can be business partners. So Devan and I have it as visionary and integrator, and we just had our first one. But it's an EOS tool, and so we go off site, kind of get out of our normal. We were not in the office, so there's no distractions. And the first 15 minutes was checking in on each other, right? So check in, Jason, how are you doing professionally? How are you doing personally? And it doesn't have to be like, I need this from you. It just check in, like, let me hear how you're doing. So vice versa, and like that's an opportunity to like constructively get out some things that maybe I need from him, or I know I'm trying to focus on myself, so I'm like saying it out loud, so there's accountability. So the first 15 minutes is check-in. And then all the issues that are going on in your business, or all the things that you feel like you guys together need to IDS and solve. So we identified an issues list, and it was a 4-hour meeting, and we got through everything. And so we felt on the same page now going into the next couple weeks, where he kind of gets a pulse on the things he needs to get a pulse on, and vice versa. And then I have really clear direction on like what I'm going to go work on for the next month. So I think it's just an important cadence to put on your guys' calendar to really do that check-in. But the hats is like, maybe sometimes you come home from the gym and you're ready to like talk, and like he's not ready for it. It's kind of like that feedback loop, like asking permission. So sometimes that's where we'll also like there's tension. It's like, I'm checked out because I just had a full day of back-to-back meetings, or, and I don't want to talk about work anymore, but he has all these things on his mind, so he's trying to download me. Well, that's not the hat I want to wear right now. So we've gotten really good at saying, what hat do you want me to wear right now, or what hat are you wearing right now? And we have to respect that of the other person. So that's why when you put structure to some meetings and making sure that like you guys kind of have that carved out to check in and talk about business things, you come more prepared, and it's not like an emotional conversation because it might be happening at the end of the night, or something else is going on externally, and you're going to download it all on them. So does that help? Is that what you were going to say?
Yes, the same page meetings are super helpful. I do want you guys to miss the book recommendation, Nonviolent Communication, NVC. That is a fundamental
it's good for
game
marriage
changer.
And parenting,
Fundamental
from what I
game
hear.
changer. Teaches you how to communicate. The reason people miscommunicate is because they judge each other rather than observe. And that's the main ingredient. Like, you're doing that wrong. There's no such thing as right or wrong. That's your perception of whether that person's doing that right or wrong. They probably think they're doing it right. So to bring your conversations to observations rather than judgments is like the key ingredient. Like, if you were to find the root cause of miscommunication, it would be because people judge each other and don't make observations. And when you make observations and you can get in touch and you can empathetically connect with the other person by understanding what they actually need, right? So it's the connection, it's empathy, it's sitting in someone else's shoes. And we've been talking about empathy lens for years, haven't we, with members? It's no different, right? It's just the evolution of that and being able to communicate within empathy all the time before you try to get the result, right? You can't go get a result unless you have a connection with someone first. So if I really want Morgan to do something, and I don't like allow her to tell me what she needs and how she feels based on the observations that I make, well then I can't give her a proper request, right? So it talks about observations, needs, feelings, and requests, and it's by Marshall Rosenberg, and there's a bunch of YouTube videos too, but it's something that I've been studying since her coach actually brought it to us, and I've always studied things like it. It's like in the personality psychology realm, and the guy who wrote it's a psychologist, but it's very good and very practical. So that would be like, if you could study that, and then the other side, Jason, would be like, you study it too, and you guys both buy into it. Because if you don't buy into it and you don't buy into it, well, it's not going to work, right? It's like court-appointed therapy. You have to go to this. How often do you think court-appointed therapy works? Like probably not ever, right? So like, I don't want to be here anyway, so I guess we just have to do this shit.
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, my parents had to do it. Like,
okay.
Yeah. They never went.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
That was helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Lise, anything?
No, that was really helpful for me hearing that part. I mean, this is sort of a different track to go on, but I'm just curious, do you have a plan for an education path for resales? I know you're going to have more of them as time goes on and we have new locations, but, and this came up at Summit where I jumped on a train going 100 miles an hour.
Yep.
And I'm catching up.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
you know, it's taken time.
Yeah, no, it definitely is a priority. It's just one of those things where I wish I could help all of our like incoming FPs, but I can't until that deal is done. And so it's tough when you are given a business, you know, on day one, and it's like, okay, here you go. So yes, it's a priority. Kayla, we've been talking about this for quite a while, and I would love actually to like work with you to say like, what are the most like high ticket items that you would have liked to see in that first month from us? Like, I would love to get feedback on that, because I don't think we've quite dialed in like where we need to spend the most of our time immediately, and then what can like wait, obviously, till you can like breathe a little bit. So, yes. So much yes. So we will chat.
Okay, sounds good. Anyone else?
I know, yeah.
Last one?
Anybody else?
Awesome.
Okay.
Well, thank you guys.
Yes. This was great, everyone. We're going to do two claps on two. We'll take a quick picture if you guys don't mind. And yeah, we'll be around all week.
I will not.
You are leaving tomorrow. I will be around all week.
Yes.
With your trainers on Friday,
Tomorrow.
doing the SAC.
Oh,
Tomorrow's Friday?
Tomorrow we have Q&A.
Oh, tomorrow's Thursday. Yeah, Q&A and then Friday SAC. I'm here for it. Anybody staying and going to regional training this week? Excuse me.
Regionals.
What'd I say? Regional athlete games. Anybody going?
Some are going back to.
Going back to your home and going? Okay, you're hosting, aren't you? Yeah.
No, Kenosha.
You're not hosting. Okay. Yeah, see why she's the CEO now? Like all detail oriented. Get all the things wrong.
It's okay. We know you have good intent.
Okay, 2 claps on 2, 1, 2.